Well, it became a $40 billion industry.
Oh,
That's
whoa.
one huge shift. Is it really did just used to be kind of a mom and pop local, just enough money to kind of make the thing run and pay umpires or pay officials or whatever. But it is a $40 billion industry.
I think we would all agree, men, that parent-driven youth sports and extracurricular activities have gotten out of control, compelling parents to make the child the focus and central figure of the family unit, which is not only unhealthy, it's unbiblical. But today we interview Brian Smith and Ed Uszynski in their book, Away Game, A Christian Parent's Guide to Navigating Youth Sports, about what a Christian dad can do to lead his family to a healthy balance between Christianity and youth activities. What does a Christian dad do? Let's tackle this one first. What does a Christian dad do about sports on Sunday mornings?
Wherever you wind up with your kid, be there.
Hey, the title of your book is Away Game, A Christian Parent's Guide to Navigating Youth Sports. So let's ask both of you this question. Why? Well, first of all, thanks for coming on the show, guys. Sorry about that.
Nope. Good to be here. Thanks.
Yeah,
Thanks for
thanks for
having us. Let's roll.
I'm so fired up about this book. I just want to jump into it. So why did you guys, you're involved with Athletes in Action. Why did you guys say, hey, we need to write a book about this?
Yeah, we started talking about it a decade ago. You said we're with Athletes in Action. So for people who don't know, that means we've spent the majority of our vocational life working with college and professional athletes. Both Brian and I competed at a high level back in the day, and we grew up around sports. But then we became dads, and we were thrown back into the youth sports world and just realized that we needed an intervention. That's what we've been saying. We've been using that word. We needed an intervention. We needed help, both as dads and kind of checking ourselves and how we were operating, not really knowing how to help mentor our kids in the midst of it, and just basically realizing we were getting pulled onto this fast moving train that may not be going in the direction we actually really want to wind up, and just not knowing what to do about it. So we started talking about it, and of course realized everybody's in that boat now that's involved in youth sports. And there just weren't really any or very few Christian resources a decade ago even talking about this. And so we finally sat down a year ago and put our thoughts down on paper, the things we were experiencing, the things we'd learned, the things we'd researched, and the things we'd screwed up, and turn it into a book.
Brian, how about you?
Yeah, I'm thinking of the context that I'm in locally here. And all my friends have kids involved in youth sports, and I'm continuing to hear words like exhausted and exasperated. I'm listening to what's coming out of the mouths of people in the stands, what I'm actually saying in the stands, what's going on in my own heart, just this angst and frustration that I feel that my kids have what I think is incredibly high potential, but they're not even coming close to that. And wondering at an internal level, why does that frustrate me so much? What can I do to fix it? And as I step back, just thinking, man, there's got to be a better spirit-filled way to approach the process of youth sports than what I and the people around me are currently experiencing. And like Ed said, there's just a lack of Christian-soaked resources that can help get us to that point. And so we want to at least put something on the table initially for us so we could help do this better, more Christianly, and hopefully it's a value add for other people as well.
Yeah, I've got the book right here, and I'm excited about this and what you guys are doing with this. And we have the same publisher, so get the book, boys. But hey, it's interesting. I do want to say this. You asked me earlier who our avatar is, and a lot of these guys, I kind of gave you a description, and I'd say a lot of these guys are definitely sports dads. We also have band dads.
Mm-hmm.
We also have dads involved in other extracurricular activities. And I think it's safe to say that all of these activities have become parent driven, out of control, and need this book. So whether your kids are in sports or they're in band or they're in horseback riding, or we've got out here in the wet, we got a lot of rodeo guys. Hey, this is an issue that is parent driven and must be dealt with. And so I'm a little bit beyond the stress bubble. So let me tell you about my little story. I had all three of my sons on my podcast in the last month. Right now they are 29, 30, 27, 29, and 31. And I asked them two questions. What did I do wrong as a dad? What did I do right? Now, in high school, you have 12 opportunities to play a sport in 4 years. So my youngest son was a 3-sport athlete for 4 years of high school. My middle son was a 3-sport athlete for all but one. And then my oldest son did not play one sport all through. He didn't play a winter sport. So of the 36 opportunities for my kids to play sports, the Ramos boys played 29 of them. So all I'm saying is we were a kind of a sports family, right? My youngest son played college football. So, but when I asked my kids, what's the one thing I did wrong? My middle son said, Dad, you didn't push us hard enough to play sports. And I thought, well, man, that's a compliment to me. But what he was saying, he said, you should have driven us harder. You should have pushed us hard like some other parents. And I made a purposeful decision because I was raised by a coach and I was driven hard by a coach who was not a Christian guy, but great dad. But I made a purposeful decision that I personally was not going to push this because I'm the dad screaming. I'm the dad screaming at practice coaching. I'm the dad screaming at the umpires. And so for me, it was really important that I let my sons choose Jesus first, and sports was not a thing. So I'm kind of in that realm. I don't think I did it 100% right. And I can share the things I did wrong, but I wish I had this book 15 years ago so I could have done it right. That's my story.
Did your son, and thanks for sharing all that, did he say why he wished you had pushed him harder? Or
he thinks he could have run college mid distance. And he probably could have. He thinks he could have swam, and he probably could have. But to me, I didn't want to. First of all, I didn't want to. I was a pastor in a church. Sunday mornings for me, was not an option to travel all over hell and back to play sports. I didn't want my children to become the center of the family unit. And so I just felt like the parents that I saw out there driving this thing were mostly non-Christian and were out of touch with reality of Sunday church. And I'm out here in the West, man. I'm not in the Bible Belt where you're at, Ed. Yep. Church is not a thing people require. I mean, Wednesdays are wide open, non-church nights. Sundays, church is not a thing. So I just did not want to be that dad.
Yeah.
And so, and I'll be honest with you, every kid's a Division I athlete until they're not.
Yep.
So why push it? Let them enjoy their life. And where I pushed was, hey, you're going to go to church and do these things. So that's my own decision, but I'm not sure I did it right.
Well, your decision resulted in them still being willing to be on your podcast 10 years later, which is something that Brian and I have been saying all along, that ultimately that's what you want, is for your kids to still want to come home at Thanksgiving time in their late 20s and not stay as far away from you as they can because they felt so oppressed by you in sports. And let's just say this even too, before we go any further, your son is an outlier. That just needs to be said. I think most of us are afraid that we're going to get to their late 20s and have that regret that we didn't push them hard enough. And that is not true. It's not usually true. Most of us are making the mistake of pushing them way too hard. Yeah, way too hard. So Brian, what are you thinking there's
the reality too. And I mean, I know he probably thought if he would have been pushed by dad or somebody, he would have made it. We kind of talk in the book about the Uncle Rico syndrome. Like, man,
I could throw the football quarter mile.
If coach would have just put me in senior year, man, I would have won state, not a doubt in my mind. And we all have that to some level. Like, man, if dad would have just pushed me, or if coach would have gave me the opportunity. But we kind of say in the book, man, if your kid's going to make it, whatever it is, and it is usually like to the next level, they're going to have two things. They're going to have a crazy ability by God where their body just works to do whatever sport they're trying to play. But two, and just as importantly, they're going to have an internal drive that cannot be bought by mom and dad. It can't be developed by an elite training program or an elite travel club. It's just something they are born with, this innate desire to want to get better. And usually the kids who are going to make it to the next level and to the next level possess this beautiful combination of they're talented, and they don't need somebody from the outside in pushing them to get better. They're the ones staying up late working on their left hand when everybody else is looking at screens.
So encourage your son with that. Actually, encourage him to say, "Dude, you wouldn't have done it if you didn't do it. Then you didn't have what you needed to be able to do that. It wasn't."
Well, here's the deal. He's 29 years old. He owns 3 homes and has 2 businesses. I think he's doing okay without sports.
Right on.
I will say this. I have a young man I coached as a freshman. He went on to an FCS school. He broke every passing record there. He ended up going to a national championship. Went out. He could have went to play Canadian football. But hey, at 22, his career's over. Yeah. And here's a guy that was at the top of his game. And so, there's this kind of a myth around this thing. And even the average NFL guy, if you go to play on Sundays, you got 4 years max is your average, right?
Right.
So this is really interesting to me that I think this is a parent problem. And here, this kid that played FCS as a quarterback, he was a 3-sport athlete. Every sport let him do the other sports, because they knew he was good. Okay. And so this myth of, you have to be a 1-sport athlete is just a myth. Yep. If you're good enough. Anyway, I'm preaching to the choir here because I'm just fired up. Well, let's do this. Let's start with the good stuff, guys. Let's start with the good stuff. I think we're all on the same page here. How does sports provide constant opportunities for us as dads to teach, model, and remind our kids that there's a different way of doing life?
Yeah, we joke all the time that when your kids get home from school and you ask them, how was your day? You usually get the one-word answer of it was good. It was fine.
Fine.
Yep. And you don't know while they're at school who they sat next to, what opportunities they had to grow, what their teacher said to them or didn't say to them. You didn't know who bullied them or maybe who they bullied. In sports, though, we don't have to guess about any of that. We have a front row seat to seeing our kids go through almost every possible emotion, from the highest of highs to the lowest of lows. And we're the ones watching all of this. And we are also the ones charged as the primary disciplers of our kids to not outsource it to a youth sport industrial complex. It's our job to take what we're seeing on the field or the court or the pool and say, God, how do I use what I'm seeing right now or what I just saw in this game or during the season and turn that into discipleship opportunities? Because sports provides almost everything we need as parents to see exactly where our kids are at and see the gap from where they need to be eventually.
Well, I'll let you answer this next, same question. But you guys wrote in your book, you said this goes along the same lines. You said, we get premium access to watching our kids trying to figure out who they are becoming, observing them experience every possible emotion in a visible, often public environment. And if we steward these moments well, we'll be the ones they want to process with along the way, which I think that is so powerful. It's kind of what you were saying, Brian. We have access to watching how they deal with success, failure, team roles, responsibilities. These are all beautiful things. So why else do you think, Ed, this is so important?
Well, I just think that again, we say all of us as dads are all across the spectrum in terms of what our response is to our kids participating, like you said, Jim, whether it's sports or theater or band or, the chess club, whatever. We're all on this continuum. Who we're speaking to and who we are dads who would have a tendency to focus way more on their performance and be way more concerned about their skill development, way more about their playing time, way more about where they're at kind of on the team hierarchy, honestly, than we are about their virtue and their inner life and the way that's grown. Of course, we would all say we want that, but the majority of our mental energy and our verbal energy winds up being directed at their performance.
100%.
And so what we've been saying all along is, well, we're not saying you take the performance side away. We're not we were laughing about this before we started. We're not participation trophy guys either. No, you keep pursuing excellence. Winning still has its place. You want to push yourself to be as good as you can be. I mean, that's part of becoming a man too. Yep. Take responsibility for your own growth. We're all about that. But we recognize that way too often that's been entirely sports centered and not soul centered. And
Yes.
so we just want to, it's a corrective, to kind of to swing the pendulum in the other direction, where we've got a list of categories where we're also checking in on how they're doing with other people. We're checking in on how they're thinking about themselves. We're checking in on whether or not they're conscious of God in the midst of what they're doing. And I'm gonna say one more thing and then I'll be quiet. But that first has to be true for me.
Yep.
I need
Yes.
to make sure I'm doing that. So I'll stop, pass the baton.
Wouldn't you think, Brian, that this is a parent problem first?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I've been working with athletes in the Christian sports ministry space for 20 plus years now. I've written other books on this stuff. So like if anybody should know the right thing to do, it should be me. But I feel like I'm one of the primary offenders when I'm watching my kids play sports. Like, man, if I really want to teach my kid patience, I need to be a more patient person. It's
Yes.
going to be really hard for me to teach my kids patience if I'm the one knee jerk yelling at referees and coaches in the stands. It's going to be really hard for me to teach my kids about self control if they constantly experience me as the dad who on the car ride home is acting in out of control ways. And so I really do need to be careful. Again, I don't need to be perfect, but I do need to have a growing awareness of, man, if I want to teach these things to my kids, I need to do the hard work of making sure I'm teaching it to myself first.
You sound like a baseball dad to me.
I am,
All
dude,
right.
I am a football, soccer, wrestling, cross country
Oh,
dad. I am
you're
everything but
all,
baseball.
oh, that's funny.
The joke in our family is I call baseball organized standing. I was like,
Yes, it should be called weight ball. Weight ball.
yes,
Well,
yes.
you just remind me of you remind me of the comments you're making. Remind me of baseball parents, man. You sit in those games, you're like, man, it's just. But but you're right. It's all sports. It doesn't matter, man. And I'll tell you what I found is I have all boys, but my buddies that have girls, and my daughter-in-law was a college volleyball player. Girls volleyball might be the biggest culprit of them all. I mean, it's just brutal, the attrition rate. But let's do this. So I grew up, I graduated high school in 84. Okay. So in 84, we did a little bit of summer league baseball. Football was fall period. Basketball, we did a little bit of basketball, but you were expected to play 3 sports. One sport, elitist type of athletes in high school. It just really wasn't a thing. But there's been a shift. And we didn't have traveling youth sports. I don't remember any, and I was at highest level in baseball and football. So there's been a shift. And in chapter 1, you talk about this shift in perspective of youth sports. Can you walk us through the shift? Because you guys are, you've been doing this 20. I'm guessing, Brian, you're in your 40s?
Yeah, 43.
And Ed, how the bald head makes you look like, what, you 30, 35?
I just turned 58, so I was class of 86. I was just
okay. So I figured we were close, but I didn't want to say anything. The bald head made you look younger. So
yeah, man.
you guys have seen this. You've been in the game here for a while, no pun intended. Let's talk about this shift. What's going on?
Well, it became a $40 billion industry.
Oh, whoa.
That's one huge shift. Is it really did just used to be kind of a mom and pop local, just enough money to kind of make the thing run and pay umpires or pay officials or whatever. But it is a $40 billion industry. I bet it's higher than that, Brian, because we were saying that a year ago, the last time we saw research. So just let that sink in. And we've said all along too, there's nothing wrong with somebody making some money on youth sports. But when you start talking about billions,
wow.
Whenever there's that much money involved in any industry, the people will start to move further and further down the list in terms of what's being prioritized. And in this case, it's kids. Like kids' growth, I don't care what they say in the brochure, kids' growth is way down the list of most clubs and most select teams and most organizations that are trying to do youth sports things. Are trying to do a lot of other things besides help kids grow. Let's just say it like that.
Because kids become commodities. They become
good, Brian.
A ticket to a better financial life for entrepreneurs. And again, sometimes it's well-intentioned people,
Yeah,
but they
sure.
have found like the quickest way to make a buck in America right now is to target parents who want the absolute best for their kids in sports,
Which
Yeah.
is all
and
of
you
us.
can sell them anything.
Yeah. So you already said it, Jim. We've got this little list that we've been playing with this, and I don't even know if this is in the book, but we've been saying this. It went from kid centered to being mostly parent centered, adult centered, coach centered.
Yeah.
It went from being primarily about play. You wanted to win always, but it was really about play.
Mhm.
And
Yes.
now it's primarily about performance and winning. Winning is like outlandishly important now at every level, at every age. It went from being affordable for everybody to now it really is almost like a luxury. It's become so expensive to be on these teams that everybody wants to be on that it's a luxury. It was super local and now it's intrastate. Sometimes people, I just heard my brother-in-law is taking their daughter to France to play hockey because she's on like the top team in Minnesota, and they're going to France, which is an amazing opportunity, but it's a huge change. That's the question. And then just like you said, it used to be very seasonal, and now it is year round. In every sport, there's an expectation early that you will lock in on this sport, which just again creates a ton of pressure, makes kids feel like they have to make these huge decisions at 8 years old that you and I didn't even cross our mind for another 6, 7, 8 years later that we would focus in on one sport if we were athletes and we wanted to play a bunch of stuff, but they don't really get to do that anymore. So those are huge shifts. They're huge shifts.
So when you say 40 with a B billion dollars, so it sounds like it's transitioned even more from kid to parent, but it sounds like there's this extra person over here profiteering off of this because the parents are funding this. My son spent $700 for his 9-year-old to do cheerleading.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow.
9-year-olds in a town of 1,200. So sounds like there's a lot of profiteering going on, and it's not the parents who are making the money; it's the parents that are spending the money. Am I right?
Absolutely. I mean, we now, because our kid's doing wrestling, we're driving 2 hours to watch him wrestle, and we're kind of at the mercy whenever we show up at these gyms of whatever the cost is to get in. Sometimes it's 5, sometimes it's
Yeah.
15, sometimes it's 40, but it's like we're here,
You're going to pay it.
we got to pay it.
Yeah, I
And
had
it's like that
somebody.
across all levels.
We were on vacation with some parents whose kid played college sports, and they said this is the first vacation we've had in 10 years because we were following our children playing sports, and it cost us over $8,000 a year just to do it.
Yeah.
And so my question is, because the guys listening right now already know the problem.
Yeah.
They're amening what you're saying. They're pounding their steering wheels. They're doing the whole thing. So what does the Christian guy, that's our audience, what does a Christian dad do? So let's tackle this one first. What does a Christian dad do about sports on Sunday mornings?
Let me go bigger. As Brian, I know, see Brian's mind over the thing. We actually just wrote an article about this that should come out here pretty soon.
Awesome.
Digging deeply into that question because we don't really address that directly in the book. Because what we're saying in the book is no matter what level you play, no matter what level you're signing up, we're not trying to condemn that or judge or tell you what you should or shouldn't do. But wherever you wind up with your kid, be their first discipler. Equip yourself with that mentality and put these tools in your tool bag to have a different set of questions, a different set of metrics alongside your performance metrics and your performance questions, maybe even superseding them as you continue to grow. That's what we're saying in the book. What we also want to say is you don't have to go along with playing with the top team. You don't have to keep trying to climb up the ladder. Your kid's not going to lose out by you not doing that. Well, they won't make the high school team. Look, there's 50 other things that have to go right for your kid to make the high school team that go way beyond what travel team they were on when they were 10. You don't know who's going to move into the community, who's going to move out, whether they're still going to want to play, how many kids are at their position, whether the coach is going to like them or not. I have 4 kids. Brian has 3. and 3 of mine are out of high school now. So I've already been through this to see the reality of that. That
Yep.
the decisions we made when they were 10 had almost nothing to do at all with what ended up happening when they were 17 and 18. Okay. So we want to just give parents permission to say you don't have to do it. Sunday morning, Brian, I'll pass it to you again because we talk a lot about this. What are we saying to people about Sunday morning?
Yeah, we would start with the position that Ed and I are both in the camp that local church involvement needs to be a heavy priority in people's lives.
I agree.
But the question of is it okay to skip is for a youth sport event is it's almost a discipleship question, not a one size fits all answer. Like the questions I would want to ask if I'm sitting across from somebody who's asking that is, does your church have a Saturday night option that you can go to? Is this a one weekend or is it 3 straight months? Have you talked to the coach about this? Are they what would actually happen if you did not go to the tournament on Sunday and went to church instead? And so there's a lot of questions that I think we could frame around that. But we're both in the camp of, man, if we really do want to be men who are leading our family, one primary way we do that is to show the importance of local church involvement.
We also think the church needs to do a better job of equipping people.
Amen. Yep.
Again, we can flip the coin over and again and say, let's stop viewing youth sports as an enemy to what's happening at church and start being more proactive about how to equip moms and dads with resources while they're on the road. A list of podcasts to listen to. Here's a list of messages. Here's some little mini studies you could do. Here's a little book of devos you could do on Saturday and Sunday while you're traveling or over lunch between games or whatever. So what we're saying is, what is the trajectory that you're even on as a family? And it's not just what happens on a given Sunday, because if we're putting all of our eggs in the Sunday basket, that's not going to be good long-term either. While we've already said we think Sunday's super important, or at least going to a service is super important, what's more important is that your family is on a discipleship trajectory. And that doesn't stop just because I'm in Fort Wayne for an AAU basketball tournament. If it does, then we've got a bigger problem.
So when my kids were going through, all of them but my youngest, I was working in a church. And so even though I worked in a church, generally we would say, well, we would not skip every Sunday. We couldn't. But once a month or something, we would say, okay, honey, you go take him to the game. I'll catch up afterwards. Well, you guys made a comment earlier. It's about play and fun. It's become performance and win. How do we as parents swing that pendulum back, even though we may not be coaching the team?
Yeah, let me give you two right off the bat. One is we can talk less. And so in the car ride to the game, at the game, and leaving, we can just have a discipline more of silence instead of using words to usually well-intentioned to encourage. But the studies are showing that the more parents talk, the more anxiety kids are experiencing in sport. If you just think of like what's going on at a soccer game on a Saturday and think of what the kids are hearing from the stands, it's go, pass, shoot. And it's just like this cacophony of sound from parents. And if you put yourself in the kids' shoes, that's a stressful environment to be in, where you can't think for yourself. You have coaches and parents telling you what to do. And so what if parents just took a deep breath and sat back and just watched their kids? And again, it starts with us. If we enjoyed the process, maybe our kids would enjoy it a little bit more too. So that's one, is like we just need to shut our mouths a little bit more. And then two, there's actually been legit studies that have shown that the more we spend, the less our kids enjoy sport. So we would say talk less, spend less.
You know what's funny about that? Statistics also tell us that the more money a person spends on the wedding, the more chance of divorce they have.
Isn't that something?
Isn't that interesting? So instead of investing in the wedding, hey, mom and dad, give your kids money for the down payment on the house.
Yeah.
Instead of investing money in the sports thing, which already costs money, how about taking a family vacation, even though your kids are in traveling baseball?
Yep.
So that's really good. Do you have the source from that we can point guys to, or who did that study?
Yeah, his name is Travis starts with a D. Dorsch. I think he's out of Utah State. So I can send it to you, and you can link it in the show
Yeah,
notes
that'd be
if
so
you
cool
want.
because I think a lot of our guys listening are fact guys, right? What are the facts? So I know I'm a fact guy. Tell me what's going on. So to hear that, when a guy can look at that and go, now listen, if I do this, this negative outcome is going to happen at a higher percentage. But if I
Yeah, I
do
mean,
this,
we can talk facts. Like 70% of kids are quitting by the age of 13 as well. And so
I
it's
would.
the system that we're in right now that we're doing, it's not working. Like we've created this system where we're really professionalizing kids from a young age because we as the adults think that would be fun for them and what would be best for them. But the kids are telling us in the stats that by the time their bodies have actually physically developed where they could even play the sport well before they get to that point, they're quitting because it's no longer fun. And so, yeah, we talk less, we spend less. For me, I'm trying to approach games without any expectations. What I find is that when I go to a football game or a basketball game, wrestling match, and I have this expectation of what could be, which is rarely met by my kid because of whether that's the coach, the ref, the team, whatever it is, that gap leads to an immense amount of frustration for me. But if I just approach the game with I'm just here to watch and enjoy seeing my kid play a sport without any expectation, I find that I actually enjoy the process a lot more, which leads me then to talk with joy on the back end as well about the experience with the kids.
Gosh, that's so powerful, man. That is a powerful, powerful statement. Ed, I can tell you want something to say here, buddy. Come on.
Well, I just think, again, Brian and I have been having these conversations for a long time, and I hear him say that. I've said it, and it sounds soft. It sounds like, well, that's good for your kid, but my kid's going somewhere, or I want something different for my kid. And it's like, no, we do too. And what we're saying after 50 combined years of working with college athletes and listening to them, and now listening to some younger kids talk about what their experience is, they will actually play freer and will be better if I shut up.
Yes.
And what as I've been more conscious of this, I realize that so much of what I'm wanting to say is really ultimately about me anyways. It just is. It's my regrets. It's my fears about the future. It's my concern about what other parents think as you are good or bad out on the court and what that does inside of me. It's my own angst. I was at a basketball game the other day. So I've got a 9th grade boy. I got one more chance to try to get this thing right. And here you go, Brian. And I've been really good at games for a while now, man. I've been quiet, and it's been good. Trey has told me he wants me to be quiet. He wants me to be there. So again, you can have both of these things. He wants me to be very present, but not with words. He wants to see me. He looks up at me in the crowd, and I just tap my heart at him sometimes, saying, "Keep going, bro."
So Ed, let me pause and I'll let you continue.
Okay.
That's a conversation you had with him though, right? Of like, Trey, do you want me to talk, or what do you want me to say at your games, if anything? So even for listeners, like that's a great conversation to have with your kids. Is what do you need from me while I'm in the stands at your game? What do I need to start doing? What do I need to stop doing? What do I need to start saying? What do I need to stop saying? Okay, keep going.
I think that's really smart. My oldest wanted me to coach him up all the time. Tell me what I'm doing. Tell me what I'm doing. My middle son, hey, tell me what I did afterwards. My youngest son, don't tell me anything ever.
That's great.
But here's the deal. But if we weren't there, when I did ask the boys, what's the one thing about me I did right? They said, you showed up to everything.
Okay, right on.
So keep going, Ed.
So there's power in being present. There's also power in shutting your mouth. So I'm at this basketball game. I've been good for a long stretch now. We're halfway into the season, and there was this ref the other day that just refused to blow the whistle, and we were playing a very aggressive team, and they were pounding each other, and so there was a timeout called, and it was quiet in the gym, and I yelled out, that's how games get out of control. One of those last two were a foul. Okay. And everybody heard me say it. Everybody turned and looked at me. There was some chuckles, there was kind of that awkward moment. He didn't look up in the stands, but here's two things happened. One, what that did was it gave permission to everybody else And Brian talks about this. There's a great story in the book actually where Brian did this at a football game. It's like I'm the one that like put the kerosene in the stands and I lit the first spark, and then everybody was doing it for the rest of the game. And I was a little bit ashamed about that because I know I am the one that started it that day.
Yep.
Two, what I realized was that wasn't for Trey. It wasn't for, it was for me. I was angry that day about some other stuff going on.
Felt good though, didn't it? Felt good in that
felt
moment.
great. It felt great.
Good.
It came out clear. He heard me, and
You
it felt
timed it
great.
perfectly. You timed it
I
perfectly.
did time it, Jim. I timed it up perfectly. It was.
I can just see you in the stands, Ed. You're like, no, I've been good. I haven't talked for about 2 months.
I deserve.
I deserve this.
Yeah, this is my quota.
It was all about me, though. If you know,
Yeah.
if you're really honest, like it's not helping anything. If anything, it's gonna make him call more against my guys. You know, because that's just how it's like the human psychology works. So I'm just aware of how much junk I'm bringing into the stands on any given day. And so Brian and I talk about the need really to have a Devo moment in the parking lot before we go into the gym or go into the football stands or whatever, and check in with the Lord, check in with where my heart's at, because it really matters.
Well, and I'll tell you what, guys, I don't know who you're married to, but I know who I'm married to. And she raised 3 boys, man. She's a warrior queen.
Okay.
And I'll tell you what, she needs one. If I stood up and said one thing at a gym, she sets on fire. The spark that gets lit first is her. So
Okay.
now we got to think about this. Our job is to wash our wives with the word. So now we're bringing our wives into our own depravity.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
I thought you were going to say that she confronts you and tells you to shut up, but no.
No, man. No. She's a warrior. Are you kidding me? I was married a warrior.
Yeah.
So I've got, and one time she had a comment about a referee and his glasses that happened at timeout when the gym was quiet. And I was like, honey, she's like, oh yeah, I did. Yeah. So we would, but if we work together,
That's
we are
right.
okay. But if one of us sets the spark for the other person. And so let's talk about this. You had said something, Brian, earlier. You talked about the attrition rate when these kids are overworked and not having fun. And I found something disturbing among college athletes, among professional athletes. There seems to be, and I don't know where this guy, I think it goes back to youth sports. There seems to be a lack of emotion in the game, just kind of a lack of emotion. What are you seeing here about this attrition? How can we as parents, every kid's a D1 athlete till he's not, but how can we get as parents help our kids to finish these sports they start with joy and to not burn them out through all of this traveling stuff and pressure and just all the garbage attached to this aggressive youth sports movement?
Jim,
Yeah,
what
let
do you
me-
what do you mean when you're saying that they lack emotion? Let me just ask them that real
It
quick.
just
Brian.
seems like winning, losing. It just seems like when I'm watching these kids in sports nowadays, there's no emotion of any kind, almost not even
Okay.
celebration.
Okay.
It just feels like they're just kind of business-like. I don't know. Maybe it's just me. This is definitely a subjective observation.
Well, I want to hear what Brian says to it, and I've got more, maybe a cultural thought about that. Go
Okay.
ahead, Brian. I want to hear what you're thinking.
Well, yeah, I don't know if I have noticed that. I wonder if part of that though is the over seriousness that we as parents and adults have placed on youth sports. Again, we're using language like we have professionalized youth sports, and so it's a really, really, really big deal in a 6-year-old soccer game that they would score more goals than the other team.
Right.
That we have a lot invested into it. And so we bring this seriousness to the table. And so it makes sense then if kids are mirroring our own emotions, right? They're going to replicate what we celebrate. And if what we're celebrating, what we're posturing is this, it's really important that we get this next goal and we win this game. And we don't leave space for silliness and fun and laughter. And again, Ed and I have both played high level sports. I've coached at high levels. So I'm all about winning and pursuing your best. But if we just tolerate fun and sport and don't celebrate it, I think we're going to end up with more of what you're noticing. This just like business-like, almost a professional approach to sports at a younger and younger age,
Yeah,
which is
especially at a
tragic
young,
and that's sad.
Yeah, yeah.
especially at a younger age. And I keep thinking about this, like when should it start to become more important, winning? And I don't know, maybe it's somewhere in high school, but it's certainly not at 10.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's, I mean, you can have both still. You should still be able to have fun in the midst of whether you win or lose. You really should. Jim, I wonder if part of what's going on is that it's become uncool in this generation to care
There you go. Yeah.
too much about anything. I have this, and I'm really a sociologist at heart, so I love studying and thinking about that very question. And I actually lead a little study. Brian does too with high school kids. So I've really been trying to dig into their minds as much as they'll open it up to me. And there is sort of it's not cool to look like you care too much. It's not cool to give too much energy to winning. It's not cool to show that you really care too much when you lose. So that's not true for every kid. There's kids showing some stuff, but they really do bring it right back here pretty quick. They bring it back to the middle because I don't want anybody to think that I care about this too much.
Yeah, that's really good. That's a really good point. I appreciate that. I want dads to go buy the book, right? I want them to get this book. I think there's some great stuff in this for dads. So what is your advice to parents about paying a close attention to the emotional, psychological, and spiritual development of their children and even the other athletes? What's your advice to parents?
We have talked about the discipleship opportunity as Christian men with our kids as they play sports to see and notice other people. Like that's one of the big things we keep talking about with this book is we're trying to help our kids see as they go out and practice and play, what does it look like to take the focus off of self and notice maybe people on the team who they're having an off day, or the kid who got yelled at by the coach or had a bad call against them by the ref. What would it look like if our kids, through this massive investment that we're putting into them in youth sports, what if they left their experience of sport learning how to love and see and show value and dignity to other people? Would it be awesome if our $8,000 a year investment bought for us and them a college scholarship? Absolutely. Would it be just as good, if not better, if it bought for them this unique ability to see and show value towards people that the rest of culture is just ignoring? As Christians, that's something we need to be celebrating and pursuing. It does start with us, though. It starts with us. Can I share a quick story? And Ed, I think we texted about this, so you might know part of this.
Okay.
My son he's a freshman wrestler. Our wrestling team is really good. They've won like 12 straight state titles. He's the lightweight on the team, 106 pounder. We had an assembly duel at our school a couple weeks ago, which means another school comes into your facility. School gets out like 2 hours early, and the entire school fills the stands and watches the wrestling team compete against this other school that comes
Jim,
in.
he videoed it. He FaceTimed me so I could watch it. I've never seen anything like it. It was so intense. I mean,
it was awesome.
What state are you in, Brian?
I'm in Michigan.
Michigan. Okay. And Ed, you're in Ohio, right?
In Ohio. Yep.
Okay. Wow.
It was awesome. They had a DJ, and so like our home school was just going nuts. And my kid is the 106er. He's the first wrestler up, the lightest one. Yeah. And he has to wrestle the number one kid in the state from this other school. It's the best kid on their team.
In front of the whole school.
And my kid, mind you, is our 106er because he's the only option.
Yeah.
Right? Like I love him. He's doing great, but he's not ranked in the state.
You're just going, don't get pinned. Don't get pinned. Don't get pinned.
That's what I texted him. Just get to the second period. Get to the end.
3 points.
That's right.
What I wanted, actually, if I could go again, is that he would get pinned in 10 seconds. Because what happened was it was a period and a half of him just getting embarrassed by this guy. You know, in wrestling, it's like they'll take you down and then they'll let you up. And then they'll take you down and let you up. And he would like get Hudson, my son, to the edge of the mat and then grab his leg and pull him back into the center of the mat while everybody in the stands is laughing.
gosh.
Okay. And as the dad, I'm just like, oh, buddy, I am so sorry. But it
Oh,
was one of those moments, again, if my job as his discipler is to take this moment and God, would you somehow use what just happened there to turn him into a better man for it? I need to not go, man, Hudson, next time you need to be aggressive, right? Like next time
mhm.
when he's got your leg like that, you need to spin around and like do whatever the wrestling people do. No, what my son needs after that match, and he comes to me with tears in his eyes, like he needs a hug.
Yep.
And he needs me to look him in the eye and say, I am so proud of you. If you can handle that in front of 600 of your classmates,
Right
Hudson, you
on.
can do anything in life.
Good moment.
But it was a beautiful moment. It was a sucky moment because I would have rather had him pin that kid or at least make it 3 rounds.
Yeah.
But God gifted us that moment to go like, man, this is an opportunity that will hopefully build his character for the long run. But again, it takes us as parents to just like put aside all of these earthly metrics for just a moment and say, God, could you use this for something a little bit bigger and better than that?
It's
And
good,
he often
Brian.
uses really crappy moments to do that. We just need to be there as parents in those moments to just maybe say less and give a hug.
Well, you said something really powerful. We need to put aside the earthly metrics because God's economy is totally different.
Yeah.
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 Ed, what do
Yeah.
you want to say about
Well,
that?
so what we're doing in the book is just really to practically say, okay, if we want our kid to be loving, what does love look like in the context of sports, and how do we access that? What are the type of
Yeah.
questions? What are the type of things we should be looking for? If humility is something we want to see grow in our kids, how do you cultivate humility through the different moments that happen? How do you talk about it? How do you talk about joy in sports? Again, that's just not something we're talking about at church. How do you cultivate joy in sports?
How do you teach
So
self-control through
yeah,
sports?
how do you teach self-control as a parent? What are the kind of questions you can ask? What are the things you look for? What are the things you celebrate when you see them? That's really what we're doing in the book. And so what I've even tried to do with myself is just equip myself with a different set of questions or
Mm.
a parallel set of questions when I get in the car with my son. So I've been gone the last few days. I haven't been here. They played a game while I was out of town. And so I'm asking Trey, how did it go? And that's usually the performance side. Did you get your shots or the things that we've talked about him trying to work on? But I'm also asking him, did you have fun? Why or why not? Who did you hang out with in this game? Who annoyed you? Like let's talk about the people side of it. And let's explore the people side. And it's interesting, Jim, because when I first started doing that with him, and he's the most articulate of our 4 kids. He's got about as many words as I do. He's ready to talk. And and he would look at me when I would say, "Who did you have fun with?" He's still actually doing this, and he doesn't have an answer because he's not used to even thinking about that. And it's like, well, dude, you had fun. Tell me, who did you enjoy being with today out on the court? What's something that happened where you had a good moment with somebody?
Mm.
And so just the fact that I am cultivating that's a category for you, dude. Yeah, get your shots. You got to play with more urgency. Yeah, we'll keep talking about all those things, but let's talk about what it means to have fun. And this is how you have fun. Let's talk about what it means. He was talking to me about a kid on the team that's getting on his nerves and this, that, and the other this morning. So on the drive to school, he just talked about, why do you think that kid's acting like that? Why do you think he's struggling the way that he is? What could you maybe do to come alongside of him and maybe breathe some life into him? And of course, he's not thinking that way as a ninth grader. He's just trying to survive himself as a freshman.
Yeah.
My job is to expand the boundaries of what he sees in front of him when he goes to school. And he's not going to get it immediately. I just need to keep consistently coming back with these kinds of questions and see what happens. Leave the results to God.
It's interesting, Ed. I learned pretty early on that evaluating performance as a parent was probably the last thing to ever do. And I actually was like, I need to ask questions.
Okay.
Questions I thought was the way to go for my kids. What are the top? And you just gave us a little list, but I want you to camp on this, both of you guys. What are the top 3 questions that you want to ask your kids that our guys listening to this podcast should ask their kids? Whether, hey, listen, we're you're talking about your boys just now, but we have daughters out there.
Sure.
Daughters, we got daughters, we get granddaughters, we got grandsons,
Yeah.
we got sons. What are the top three questions from each of you that we
Brian,
should say post-performance?
Take us to the car ride home, Brian, because I think
I'll put one on the table.
Go ahead.
This is the top one for me.
This is a good one.
This is the car ride home, or whatever happens right after the game. Is there anything that happened today from the game that you want to talk to me about?
Oh, great question.
Right? Because there's a lot that I want to talk about, but I want them to drive the bus.
2-hour list, Jim, man. Yeah.
Jim, usually the answer is no, I'm good. And so that drives me crazy, but it has been my filter of, man, if they want to talk, this is the question that's going to jump us into the conversation. So I would start with that, Ed.
And Jim even said, though, he gave 3 different kids having 3 different responses, but that's the point. They're all different.
Yes.
So I don't need to assume that they necessarily want to talk, because that's been my experience amongst all 4 of mine. And one of them played college ball, but he didn't really want to talk after the game. He didn't want to talk to me after the game, and maybe there's something to that, because he knows what he's going to get from me, which is my list.
Yeah.
They don't want to talk right after the game about that list. Maybe somewhere else, but not right now.
Yeah. Here would be another one too. Do you want to play this sport again this season?
Talk about that.
Oh, whoa. I was not expecting that one.
Keep going, Brian.
Because the assumption is that they want to, and so we sign them up. And we neglect actually giving them autonomy in the process.
Whoa.
And I think that's one of the reasons kids they're not enjoying it, is because they feel like mom and dad keep signing them up and they have to do it, that they don't have a choice. And I think maybe people don't want to ask their kids this because they don't want to give their kids the choice, but I think we'd actually be surprised if we put it on the table. We'd at least be surprised at our kids' response, that they think they actually have a say in the process.
It's really funny, and I hesitate to say this, people get funny, but my middle son was a all-county football player, played football 4 years. He was a really good track runner, varsity runner for 4 years. But his winter sport, he didn't play a winter sport 1 year. 1 year he was a swimmer, and he dated a cheerleader 1 year. He was actually a cheerleader for 1 year.
Wow.
He went to second nationals. But it's funny because our whole thing was, what do you want to do? We don't care. You're gonna do something.
Okay.
My oldest son got cut for the basketball team. I go, hey, well, you're going to do something. So are you going to be the manager now? Because you're going to be active. Because okay, we can talk about this later.
Yeah, I like that.
I love that question. Don't assume your kids want to play sports.
Because they may want to play something else.
Yes.
The hard thing is they may want to play something we don't care about, have no interest in, and again, this happened to me several times.
Like being a cheerleader when you're a man.
Dude, I was not expecting to hear you say that.
Yeah, he was dating the cheer captain, and what are you going to do? Hey, this is a boy dating a cheerleader captain, so what are you going to do?
Wow.
He's going to go follow his girlfriend.
Yes. I know we don't have any more time, but I just want to explore that so much.
No, he was the guy throwing the girls around. They were, awesome. He didn't do the rah-rah stuff. He just stood in the back and then threw girls high. That's all,
I think it's awesome, but what you represented is, what do you want to do?
Yeah.
You're going to do something. What do you want to do? Not just what do we want you to do?
No, that's why I love Brian's question. that kind of threw me for a loop a little bit. I wasn't ready for that.
We've already said this, but I think, again, it sounds like a soft question, but it's actually a portal to a lot of what's going on in our kids' head, and that's just, did you have fun today?
Yes.
Why or why not? Because maybe they're always, no. Maybe our kid's the Eeyore kid, and he or she's always going to say no. Well, let's talk about it. Let's talk about why you didn't have fun. And it's interesting because there will always be something that happened with somebody else, probably, that created that. Or maybe they didn't like that the coach was making them do drills that they don't like. And, there's something in there to talk about, though.
Yes.
Whether it's about a person or it's, hey, let's talk about how you don't have to do this sport anymore, but if you want to do it in an organized way, this is what you do to make yourself better. Now, maybe you don't want to get better in this sport. Again, that's something I need to be open to. Maybe they just don't want to get better, so they don't want to play on this intense team. They don't want to be on a team that has all these extra workouts. They just want to play with their friends at the Y.
Yeah, just want to have a good time.
Yeah. And so that's hard for some of us, that they just want to have a good time because we want them to want something more. And again, that's the whole point of what we're talking about here. Where's that coming from? Why not just let them have a good time with sports? And then maybe what they're going to do is they're going to run 3 businesses and own 2 homes because their mind and their heart is really in business, like your kids was, right?
Yeah.
He hasn't gotten there quite yet, but that's really what he wants to give his time and energy to, not becoming an all-state basketball player. And that's okay.
Yeah.
That's okay.
So Brian, what's your third question?
That was 2 questions, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Third question.
Our perfectionists are going crazy right now.
Yeah, we mentioned this one already, but I'll put it back on the table. What do you need from me today?
Oh, today.
Yep. So maybe on the car ride to the game or to a practice, if I'm going to be in the stands or on the sideline, what do you need from me?
There's a lot to that. There's performance. That's a performance question. That's an emotional.
Yep. It gives them permission to say, I need you to not do this, or I need you to, it just opens the door to a lot of different things.
Here's a subset of that one that we talk about all the time, Brian. Is there anything I'm doing that's causing you more stress?
Yeah, that's good.
So that's more just directly me. Is there anything me or mom are doing that's causing you more stress? And you feel free to tell us whatever that is. Okay. Is there anything else I can do to just help relieve the stress? It might not even be about me and mom. And again, they may not have an answer to that right away. That doesn't mean it's a bad question.
Yeah.
Give them time to think, process. Maybe it's going to be months down the road that they actually believe you even enough that you actually care about it because you keep asking it, that now I actually do have an answer the more I've thought about it. This would relieve stress for me. Just think about how emotionally mature it is to be able to identify what it is inside of me that's causing stress and be able to articulate it to somebody else. There's 35 and 40-year-olds who are paying a gazillion dollars to counselors to try to pull that stuff out of them. What if we taught our kids to be able to identify and express an emotion like that inside of them early?
Because of their involvement in sports.
That's right, because we're involved in sports.
Yep.
Well, and I'm 100% convinced that sports has such a benefit. And one of those benefits in life, we have to perform under pressure. In sports, you have to perform under pressure. Yep. And one of the things I think, there's a subset here. There's a set of parents listening to this podcast that we need to talk to. Okay. And these are the parents that don't mandate sports, don't mandate extracurricular activity. They really don't mandate anything. And I think on that side, they're killing their kids because I think there's a balance between activity and boredom.
Okay.
What would you say to the parent who's like, yeah, my kids don't do anything and I don't care. They just go to school, do their thing. What would you say to that guy? He's on the opposite end of your book.
Well, we're missing out on this opportunity when they're young to be able to explore who God created them to be. And the only way that you discover that is to try a lot of different things.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Again, everybody's got a different story behind why they might come to that conclusion that they just are not going to do anything or not put any expectation on their kids to do something. But this is the chance that we have to help them find out who they are. Because another thing that I think is culturally true is kids are getting into their 20s and just they're just kind of wayward.
Yep.
They don't know what any sense of purpose or why they're on the planet. So we can start using extracurriculars and different opportunities to help them explore what they really like, what they don't like. You know what? You talked about this with marriage earlier. This is true when it comes to dating. They don't date enough or have some interaction with the opposite sex. Like, this is really weird now. Like, everybody, same sex going to prom and stuff because they just don't want to take the risk and the messiness of asking the opposite sex. Well, if you want to get married someday, at some point, you're going to have to talk to a girl, And so I'd rather they be doing that under my watch and they would be exploring that. Again, that's a whole nother podcast, isn't it? But that they'd be exploring that in a healthy way under my watch so they can start to learn what are they attracted to and why, and what are they not attracted to.
Yeah, and your book really addresses that driven parent who has children who have some kind of drive, They're not addressing this. Yeah, I just run into parents all the time that for some reason they hate sports. They weren't good at them. They were bullied by a athlete, so they're
Yeah.
very antagonistic towards sports. But you're really talking about the guy on the other end who said he's driven, he's a parent, he's engaged, he's probably married to the same woman of the child, or he's in the same town of that woman because he's connected. We're talking to a dad who's connected. We're actually talking to probably top tier dads. I mean, if you think about it, these are dads who are connected to their kids, and we're saying, hey, calm down a little bit, bro.
Well, most of us are just doing what was done to us. Most of us are just doing what we've learned watching everybody else. That again,
Yeah,
that's
and
why
what
that. Go ahead, Brian.
I was going to say, and what we're saying, Jim, is unless you step in with an intervention,
Yes.
your kid is going to be formed by the youth, what we're calling the youth sports industrial complex. It is not formation neutral. It is, if anything, it's probably malforming your kids and maybe even your family. And so this book is hopefully a call to action. It's a practical call to action to take back what the youth sport industrial complex is stealing and
Good.
own the process of discipleship with your kids.
Well, I agree 100% with you. What I've seen, and we've had to battle through, is that family unit. That family centers around Jesus. The next ring is the husband-wife relationship, and then that outer ring is the children. Sports has a tendency, if you overcommit, to pull the children into the center and head of Jesus and the marriage, and that's not healthy for the child or the family structure.
It's good, Jim. Yeah,
or discipleship. Or discipleship.
It's well said. It's well said. And so, the hardest thing for me to do, and I guess we've been saying this the whole time, is just to look myself in the mirror first and see what's going on inside of myself. How committed actually am I even wanting to be their first discipler? Like, we can't just assume that everybody listening to that has come to that conclusion. And, so we all need to keep challenging ourselves as men and raise that bar higher above our head to say, no, that is what you've been called to. If God has blessed you with a wife and has blessed you with a child, you're going to be accountable before him for the environment you created, both for her and for the kids. I'm going to be held accountable for the initiative that I took, the responsibility that I took to create an environment for them to grow. Mm-hmm. And so again, that's it's daunting on one hand, but it's also exhilarating. And our culture doesn't give us that message enough as men. Actually, it's supposed to tear men down.
Yeah.
No, man, the bar is high above our head. Let's go get it. And youth sports is a great arena for us to do that. Don't get so caught up in the performance that you miss out on the opportunity to grow their soul. That's what we're saying to ourselves.
Well, that's the premise of the book. That's what I appreciate about the book. It's, hey, the pastor's not the discipler of your children. You are. You are. You may be the coach. You may be in the stands, but you, at the end of the day, are their pastor.
Right on.
You are their discipler. When a man gets it, everyone wins. So what's one last thing that each of you want to say to men who are listening to this podcast and that you want to read your book? What do you want to say to them?
Yeah, you can do this. It's much more, you're much better positioned to do it if you're doing it in community with other men. And so we've encouraged people that if you're going to try to do this, disciple your kid through sport, to get the book, but do it with other men too. So there's some level of accountability and shared language.
I love that. Yeah, I love that too, Brian. And we haven't said this, so I'll leave with this. If you've been messing it up, start with an apology. You can start with repentance. I've had to repent with my kids, not just in sports, in other arenas too. An apology to say, you know what? I feel like I've been too hard on you. Again, what do you need from me? How do we start this process over again? If you could have this look different, what would it look like to our kids? And see what they do with that. Humble yourself and see how God might want to use that humility to grow something new in your family.
You know what? That just triggered something in me. I just preached a sermon last night on Luke 17:1 and Matthew 18:1-9, where Jesus says, hey, in life, stumbling blocks will come, but woe to him through whom they come. And he goes on and talks about hurting little children. And so the word he uses for stumbling block is the Greek word scandalon. In the ancient Greek tradition, a scandalon was the trap the bait you put the trap on, the bait that you put the trap on, or the plate that you put the bait on. So
Okay.
like a mousetrap, you put the cheese or the peanut butter. That's called a scandalon. And he's saying, guys, we can't create a scenario that's going to cause our children to be spiritually stumbling because of us.
Wow.
And so what you're saying there, Ed, is so powerful. And it's some of us need to go to our kids and go, man, I'm sorry. Dad went a little bit overboard here and wasn't living the way Jesus would have me live. And I need to let you know that.
Yeah.
Because I don't want you to stumble over my mistakes.
Yep. And maybe we need to make a call to our 27-year-old son or daughter and
100%.
And say that same thing, that I wish we had done this 10, 15 years ago. I wish I had done this differently with you. Will you forgive me? That can heal an awful lot of wounds.
Yeah. My dad actually he came back and said that to me multiple times.
Did he?
Yeah, because, he was my coach through high school football and baseball and but he realized it was too much.
So did mine.
That goes a long way when your dad says that.
My dad was a football coach, and he was trained by Rocky and Vince Lombardi.
No pressure. No pressure.
Yeah, man. That's what the gospel does, though. It brings us back to that humble place of starting over again. And grace says it can look different. You can do this. I love how Brian said that. You can do it, but you might have to start over again. Man,
guys, I really love this conversation. I love this book. The next book you write, you got to reach out to me. I think this topic is so powerful. I know I can tell you right now, I can read your mind. The next word you're going to say is Amazon. Where can guys get this book?
Amazon.
Review.
How do guys get a hold of you guys?
Yeah, we do a lot of our other writing, resourcing athletes, coaches, and parents at thechristianathlete.com. So we do a lot at the integration of faith and sport at that website, thechristianathlete.com.
Thechristianathlete.com. Great, guys. Hey, wonderful having this conversation with you guys. We hope you sell a lot of books. I think this is a huge, huge issue for men in that stress bubble of life. Thanks for coming on the show today, guys.
Thanks, Jim.
I don't know if you know this, but last year on Spotify alone, the Men in the Arena podcast grew by 882%. That's right, 882%. Many of those people who are listeners have not yet subscribed to the podcast. So we want to beg you guys, if you are a listener who has not subscribed, please go and subscribe to this podcast. Follow it. It helps us to get the word out to more and more men. We are so excited to be your number one podcast for Christian men. Until next time. Feel the wet sand on the arena floor. Hear the deafening roar of the crowd. Taste the sweetness of victory. Smell the stench of battle. Get in the game. Get dirty. Grind it out. Control your balance with sports and extracurricular activities. And be a man.